Welcome. Today we will be talking about the problem of evil. Most people that try to disprove the existence of God from the existence of suffering don't really put their argument in a premise format, but here I have put it in a syllogistic format. Let's take a look. The argument starts off with a definition of God. We're going to define him as this being that's all good, all-knowing, and all-powerful. By saying that he's all good, we mean that he wants to maximize good, right? And by saying that he's all-knowing, we mean that he knows about everything. And by saying that he's all-powerful, we mean that he can do whatever he wants. So from this we conclude that if God is able to maximize good, and wants to maximize good, and knows how to do so, he actually will maximize good. The next premise attempts to prove that in the world we live in, good has not reached its maximum logically possible capacity. According to this argument, good has not been maximized because suffering, which could be considered bad, exists. From this, many would argue that a God that would maximize good does not exist because good, quote-unquote, has not reached its logically possible capacity, meaning that good has not been maximized. And with that, the existence of God has been supposedly debunked. However, is this really the case? Let's take a deeper look. The key flaw in this argument is that free will is technically a good thing. Now, I'm not going to try to deal with the meta-ethics here, but the point is we can all agree that free will is good. We can all agree that having the ability to choose what we do is a good thing. Why is the goodness of free will a flaw in this argument? Well, recall the third premise of this argument, which states that good has not been maximized because some pain exists. This argument forgets that we don't just measure good through pleasure or pain. We measure it through other metrics, such as free will. Free will is not necessarily pleasant or painful. So let's take a look at a scenario which sacrifices some material well-being for the sake of free will. Let's first define our terms. Hedons, or units of well-being, essentially pleasure, and negative hedons, or units of pain, because a negation of pleasure could be considered pain. In equation number 1, we have an environment in which people have free will. Then those people are having some fun, they have 50 hedons, but then they're feeling a little bit of pain, so that's minus 2 hedons. And this equation simplifies to free will plus 48 hedons. The second equation would be just 50 hedons. No free will, no pain. So this begs the question, in which scenario do we have more good? 48 hedons with free will or 50 hedons without free will? Well, that depends who you're asking. If you look at the original argument that we were talking about earlier, it's very clear that 50 hedons has more good in it than 48 hedons plus free will, because that argument only uses metrics of pleasure and pain. And 50 hedons has more pleasure in it than 48 hedons. But who's to say that 2 hedons are worth more than free will? Who's to say? Even if you could prove that 2 hedons are worth more than free will, would 1 hedon be worth more than free will? Would 0.01 hedons be worth more than free will? The point is, inherently, hedons are not worth more than free will. This exposes a key flaw in the argument we looked at earlier. You can have scenarios in which you have less well-being, but more good, as demonstrated by the fact that 50 hedons is not necessarily more good than 48 hedons plus free will. So, it is logically conceivable that God has maximized good in this world by sacrificing some well-being for the sake of free will. So, the syllogistic argument from the beginning of this video has been shown to be flawed. Thanks for watching.